My name is Michele Johnson. I am a physician assistant by trade, an international best-selling author, and certified professional executive coach. In this episode, you'll learn not only about what it takes to live in the presence of being exactly who you are, but how to overcome years of physical, emotional pain in a way that is resilient, powerful, and empowering. I can't wait to be on this prosperity episode and connect with you.
Welcome to yet another exciting episode of the Online Prosperity Show. I'm your host, Prosper Taruvinga, and I want to tell you something. You're tuned into the premier destination for exclusive insights into today's most compelling themes and the remarkable individuals behind them. Now, today we're going to be diving deep into a journey that's as inspiring as it is transformative. Michele, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much. I so appreciate the warm welcome, Prosper.
Absolutely. Well, the pleasure is all mine. I can't wait to share you with our audience and also just get to hear your journey. And for those that are tuning into the Online Prosperity Show, thank you too for choosing this to be your destination for compelling themes and just getting to know the remarkable individuals behind them. Now, our guest today is Michele Johnson. She's not just a certified executive coach or clinician. She's actually a beacon of resilience and innovation in the realm of leadership development. Now, she has her background, as she's going to be letting us know, that spans with over 2 decades of personal health challenges. And Michele has just harnessed her experiences to empower visionary leaders through her company and also her experiences. And her company is called PFPACoaching and Consulting. So as we journey along, I want you to pay close attention to obviously her life story and her experience from battling chronic pain to becoming a leader in executive coaching, and also the transformation from those personal experiences that have now shaped her professional methodologies, and also what her work is doing and helping others be, do, and have a happier existence. And we're all going to be connecting all of that in this journey together. Now, Michele, I could go on and talk about things that I'm not even qualified to talk about. You are known to, turn things that seemingly would, obliterate a normal person on their head and make light of the situation. I mean, something that was a pain in the neck is now a head start for others. Tell us a little bit about your journey and how you actually got started in your journey.
Absolutely. So, I do believe all of us as humans have this commonality, this connectedness, this belongingness. And so when we talk about what's normal and what we can bounce back from, we have so many examples that we look at. We see these amazing stories. And so when I listen to my own story, I think, well, yeah, that's just kind of the way life happened. So to hear you think of it through extraordinary eyes takes me a little aback because I'm simply human. But what happened, I grew up on the west side of Chicago. I grew up around a lot of interesting characters in my family. as well as a lot of violence externally. And what I believe, looking back and having the medical eyes now, is that a lot of that I internalized. You had to be strong. You had to put on a certain air of confidence, or you would be run over, bullied, physically beaten. And so a lot of things I internalized. And if you've ever heard the saying that the body keeps score, there is a whole book about it. And the evidence supports that our bodies actually do have stressors, like from that fight or flight stress response that we all know of. Over time, it's like that little river that became the Grand Canyon. For some of us, we get into heart problems, chest pains, palpitations. For some of us, it's headaches. Can't seem to stop clenching my jaw at night. For me, it was pain. And the condition was chronic pain diagnosis fibromyalgia. So the muscles and nerve fibers were misfiring. In times I shouldn't have been in pain. There was nothing that should have been causing pain. Yet still, I couldn't get out of bed in the morning, sometimes without crawling to the restroom. You know what it's like when you first get up in the morning and you got to go? And I wouldn't be able to walk. I would fall down and have to crawl. Working and supporting myself as a 23-year-old at that time, I would fall asleep on the road in between stop signs, stoplights, because I would be so exhausted. And that existence, that what is wrong with me? I thought, well, maybe because my lifestyle is so busy. You know, I was a dancer. I was in church. I was leading a teen ministry. And so I was constantly on the go. Maybe it was just that I was too busy. And so I would go to the doctor. They would run tests. Nothing's wrong with you. It's all in your head. Maybe you're depressed. I went to 8 physicians before there was a test ran that kind of indicated that there may be something deeper. And for many of you listening, you've probably had this experience where you knew something was going on, but you're being told you're okay. There's nothing wrong. Keep going. Keep moving. And so you pick yourself up by your bootstraps, like we've been taught to do, especially in my generation, that you work, you keep going. And for many of us now, we've learned the lesson that our body has kept score and that it is not having it. It will burn out on us. Our mental energy will burn out on us. And so my journey with 2 decades of chronic pain, of crawling to the restroom, of falling asleep on traffic lights, of my feet burning in the office, taught me that despite physical things, despite the stressors, that we have to find a way sometimes.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And thank you so much for taking us through that journey. Now, for a lot of people, you're absolutely right. You know, there's not a person in sort of my age group that doesn't wake up with some sort of pain here and there and some headache once in a while and things of that nature. But you did bring about the statement that the body does keep score. And while you're talking, I remember an experiment, they did wear ice if it is melt, if it is frozen in a space where there's anger or whatever it is, it sort of grabs the feeling of that particular environment or whatever is going on
Mm-hmm.
at that particular time. Now, our bodies are made of a large percentage, and I think 70% water. Could
Mm-hmm.
that be what you're referring to, that our bodies, whatever is coming at them, is what they remember, and we need to go in there and freeze that?
I love that experiment. I absolutely remember not only the words, the energy that was spoken towards the water, the music even that is played has an effect. There are external things in our environment that absolutely affect what goes on in our body, but also our thoughts and emotions internally affect what is happening in our body. Um, Sometimes the threat is real externally. Someone is yelling, someone is dangerous. And sometimes the threat is perceived. There is a story playing in our mind that we have put on a situation, a judgment that an inner critic continually plays. And so for many of us, it's not always that there is an external thing. Sometimes it's the conversation we're having on our own.
Now, you did obviously open us up, and we may go there if you allow it. But you did open us up that within your in, internal family unit, there were curious characters, and then also on the outside there was the violence and things of that nature. So maybe we can narrow it down to a particular, maybe day that you can maybe remember at an earliest age. So a very common day amongst people in America is Thanksgiving. So if we could just maybe have an insight into what that sort of curious family looked like and would have operated on a non-threatening day, and also what the outside would have looked like, that way we can see now where we can start tracking the score.
Absolutely. I'll give you a Christmas Eve.
Thank you.
In our family on Christmas Eve, we had a talent show. So the boys against the girls. Every year we would practice for this talent show. Every year the girls won. We danced, we sang, and the elders in the family cooked some of the most amazing meals. We had greens, sometimes we had duck, we had baked macaroni and cheese, all the staples. Um, what typically happened is we always had an amazing time. Everyone from the neighborhood, people would ride their bikes over to participate in our family's Christmas Eve. But we knew before the night was over that something was going to happen. And I laugh because my family had a unique blend of an incredible love, but an incredible amount of chaos. And one of my family members got angry and decided to turn the food over. He slid the bird across the floor. And I was the only one who had eaten because I was not feeling well that day. My mom was giving me some food so I could take some medicine. But everybody got mad. Everybody wanted to fight him. He had just gotten angry and decided to turn over the food. And that's the kinds of unpredictable things that would happen for us. And so now it's a fight. But what that did as a young person is it made me hyper alert to any kind of shift in someone's emotions, was there going to be a fight? Um, did I need to protect the littler ones? Um, do we need to get out and call the police? And so some of those incidents imprint on my body. I would wake up with memories and feelings and heart palpitations. And so we don't always realize the things that maybe affect us. But what I love about the realization and what we know now in science and in um, the study of how the mind and the body relates is that we have to learn how to protect that nervous system. We have to learn how to reset it. We have to learn how to be here and not in the future or in the past. And so it's been an incredible journey and learning that about my own physical journey. I've now been 4 years pain free, and it feels like a miracle to say, after 20 years of daily pain, that learning how to reset, rewire, listen to, tune in, and be different with my nervous system, that it is truly possible to shift even the most deeply entrenched pattern.
Absolutely. And thank you so much for obviously sharing Christmas Eve with us there. But it's times like that, like you said, you started it off with all the joy in singing, the competition, the whole family unit connection, only to be severed in half pretty much by that family member who takes away from everybody else. In this instance, you're the only one that had eaten. All right. So it takes away the food that the whole family was supposed to have just because of their own selfish demeanor or things of that nature. But you did also put out a picture of you having to take medicine at that particular time. Had these pains already started, or was this just some childhood illness that was you coming down with something at that particular time?
You know, as I look back, I was always sick.
Mm,
I remember missing 18 to 20 days of school of a year.
okay.
Like, I got sick on the bus, I got nauseous. But here's the thing, my bully rode the bus. Um, there was a time when the whole bus fought me and jumped on me as a child. And because the popular girl had been upset and she hit me. And so the whole bus joined in because I was getting too much of the best of her. And so after that, I would get sick on the bus. It was someone had to drive me to school, or I had to take a different way. So I think the way that some of us handle things, for me, I internalized a lot. I never told anybody that I had this fight on the bus, but I could tell my mom that I don't feel good, that I'm sick.
Absolutely, absolutely. And obviously, all of this is now really painting a picture that not only are you at home at one of your favorite times of the year and also on your way to school, these certain things are sort of happening. So that then really connects the internal and the external environments, which obviously would not have created a conducive environment, but you kept going to school. What was it like, in the later years, and what were some of your experiences?
You know, we are such complex creatures as humans, because there's these hard things that we go through, and then there's these amazing events too. I mentioned that my family always got together. There was an incredible amount of love and support. But we had these like crazy, adventurous, chaotic times. And as I grew older, I learned to accept the duality of the situation. And so as a teen, I met friends. My best friend I met when I was 14 years old, and we're still best friends till this day. But she introduced me to fine dining. And so after school, we would go and eat mussels and pasta and, seafood, tiramisu. I learned these things with her at 14 to 16 years old. And we started to travel. We traveled to Jamaica for the first time at 20 years old and then again at 22. But I learned that hard things teach you things. And though you may internalize them, you have to get them out of you. It has to be a release in order to move forward. And so I had a blast with my best friend. I graduated from high school and decided, hey, I want to work. I want to be out on my own. And that adventure of going through corporate America and learning that, leadership and hierarchy situation, and then learning medicine as a discipline. I learned that, hey, I wore an eye patch when I was little. There's something to that. That there is healing in conversation and getting to know people. And so I went from being the patient to the medical provider. I was able to listen and understand from a different place of experience. And it's an amazing journey to sit with people in their most vulnerable time, knowing exactly what it feels like, fighting through my own pain at the time. And yeah, that connectedness, that being with another human being and learning that we figure things out for ourselves in a different way sometimes has been so powerful and really informed the next parts of my journey.
Absolutely, absolutely. Now, and thank you so much for that, because I love this transition that you are talking about, from being the patient to now you also being the administrator of, medication to other people so that they can feel better on their journey. But I don't know. I couldn't help but, just think that maybe somebody would come through to you one day, probably just broken a nail, and oh my God, their whole world or their whole day is just out of whack, and then they just want something to numb that pain. Wouldn't you just be like, come on, man, you
It's interesting because I learned in my medical practice that what people come in from it for is rarely what we end up speaking about totally.
Mm.
And this is what really helped to transition me to coaching is I would be in the exam room with people who came in for a cough and believing that maybe they had bronchitis. Within 10 minutes, they were shedding tears and showing me the marks that they have cut through on their arms,
Wow.
because there was so much more. People were just on the edge. And all they could muster was, hey, I got this ache. I must need a doctor.
So many people would be going through stuff. I mean, you're absolutely right. They come in with just a cough, but it's a whole lot of things behind the scenes that are bringing them to you. Now, was that because some people would say it would have been a calling, because as a medical doctor you're trained in a certain way to just maybe look at the symptom and things of that nature. Correct me if I'm wrong, but the level you were taking it, the whole empathy side of things, was that now stemming from your experience with pain and the understanding of what is presenting as a symptom is not the whole story? This is just the tip of the iceberg.
I love that question, because it really marries together the science and the art.
Absolutely.
There's a spiritual connection and a thread between us as humans, that when I sit in the presence of another human being, there is more than their words that they transmit. Their body language, their energy, their demeanor. Sometimes a cold is just a cold. Don't get me wrong. But when I walk into a room and I can feel your anxiety and nervousness, there's so much more than you're saying. I've had gentlemen, especially because this is new for many young men and our generation in particular, to be vulnerable and say, it's not just anger that I feel lonely, I feel isolated, I feel frustrated. It's not just anger that is socially acceptable for me. It's, I am afraid. There's different things. And the way it'll show up, maybe it shows up as irritability and I'm cutting people off in traffic. Maybe I'm being short with my family. The way it shows up is different, but there's something behind that. And so maybe their wife drugged them in because they're not sleeping. And that's the conversation we have when we get there.
Mm. It must have been very conflicting for you. I mean, I'm also still just going from what I understand, because I've been to places where the doctor doesn't even look up to see
Mm-hmm.
if you're a person or not.
Mm-hmm.
Just give me a string of your symptoms and let me just write it down or put it in this computer and let it tell me what you might have. Because that's going against, I think, everything you've ever been taught in med school.
So, as a physician assistant, I am trained in the medical model of a doctor, and it was truncated into a smaller amount of time.
Mm.
What I love about my journey is that by being a patient, by experiencing so many of those experiences where no one looked at me, or a doctor read off my symptoms and never touched me. Like how do you come to a conclusion if you never do an exam? That's part of it. You can say many things in your history and tell me all the things that are going on with you, but if I don't get some other information from an examination, I'm only having half of the information. And so it doesn't go against my training. Um, it's enhancing my training. when I speak when I spoke with patients in that 15 minutes that we would get. And we're going to go through all the possible things, but we're also going to look at you as a whole person. And what I found was my high achievers, my incredibly driven folks who were wanting to be game changers in this world were bogged down and having physical symptoms because of the stress, the anxiety, the pushing forward, the trying to move mountains without the mental clarity of being able to stand still and actually have a healthy moment with themselves. So the learning that healed me, the learning that I was seeing transform my own pain, I was able to try out with so many patients by having a more specific conversation. Let's get to the root of what the actual problem is. Yes, it is, difficult that you are feeling this chest pain, but is that chest pain coming up and we're not sleeping and we're thinking because we're concerned about the possibility of a divorce. We're concerned about the fact that we just lost our job. We're thinking about the fact that we got to go visit a mom that is having dementia but used to put cigarettes out on us. There's a lot.
I can see that. I can see that. And, just from what you're saying, I think that explains why we can't read the doctor's handwriting, because they don't quite know what to write in the paper, is it? Because they have.
That is part of it, right?
They just scribble, just so that, you figure it out in the future there. So what this really excites me, Michele, is you now had a large specimen to learn from. All these people that are coming in now presented an opportunity for you to really try out, first of all, the medicine side of things, and then the whole coaching side of things. Was there a light bulb that would have happened for you to then marry the two, and you then move from medicine to coaching? What was the catalyst?
I started to notice that more and more of the time I was having these results with my medical clients by using techniques that would move them forward in action. And that is one of the principles of coaching. We have insight, we uncover, we see what the barriers and boundaries are, and then we move forward and make a decision to act. And in medicine, what I saw is one-on-one, we could have these meetings and get forward movement. But when in coaching, there was an opportunity to affect many people. And starting off as a stress strategist and doing group coaching and doing neuroscience-based mental boot camps, I've seen incredible shifts in being able to have clear and focused thinking, decision making, being able to lead people from a space of emotional intelligence by having the audacity to be, not just do, but the audacity to show up as the unique human that you are. And it's been incredible to shift from being in that exam room, talking to someone one-on-one, to becoming an international best-selling author, showing folks that you can live a full life despite chronic pain, because I wrote it while I was still in pain. And the coaching, the being with executives, the seeing them change the game in their organizations, the impact is so much bigger than what we could have one-on-one in coaching in exam rooms. And sometimes when we're stuck in a place of illness, we can really, really want a medication. or something that will stop the immediate symptom without wanting to actually do the work to dig into what's behind it.
And that's what they call the placebo, right? I mean, we just want something that is seemingly easy to digest, swallow, and just get on with our lives and things of that nature. I don't know if you've ever heard of the story of the lobster. The lobster, they say, is a soft, mushy animal who, every time it grows, it has to outgrow its shell. So it has to take off that shell and hide somewhere else up until the shell grows again. And then that's how it grows. Now, can you imagine if lobsters had doctors? They would just go to some doctor and say, just give me whatever you got. Just.
Yes. And unfortunately, as we gain knowledge and technology and the ability to look things up, there has kind of come over us this yearning to say, well, this is what I need. Give me this.
Mm. So we're
I
presenting
need
that
a,
to the doctors, right? And be like,
oh,
I
oh,
just want you to give
absolutely.
me this
Give me this.
medication.
I've looked up my symptoms. This is what I have. Give me this. And I would find myself often saying, can we agree that you let me know the symptoms and I will use my expertise to give you my best knowledge diagnosis? It's very interesting the world we live in right now. Many medical providers are leaving medicine because the demands of being told that this is what I need, and then if I go on and leave a bad review, now this particular provider, their job is in danger, and it there's this kind of interplay that give me what I want. But we feel it everywhere, right? You've seen the person standing in front of the microwave. They put it on 1 minute. It's like, come on, come on, come on. There's this hurry upness. And many of the lessons are learned in the sitting, in the seeing, in the moment of being. And so you can't really shortcut that. You can't chat GBT it. I mean, um, some of the transformations of humans will have to go through this human experience of transformation. So, like when I go into meetings and we're going to talk about something complex or we're going to be talking about a new strategy, the first thing I want to do is get you here, get you in your body, get you in the five senses, because that's when we can actually receive information and remember it. That's when we can actually absorb and be able to get it. And so, neuroscience coaching, learning to meld the mind and body, the art and science of this is the next step from my perspective.
Absolutely, absolutely. And I really appreciate that because half of the time we're so distracted with everything and we think we know just predicated on somebody else's opinion. And who are they to be road mapping the way we are going? But let's just go back to your journey a little bit then, Michele. I mean, obviously now I can see we're, on the straight and narrow, and you are now also helping others be do and have. Um, but I kind of feel like you also along the journey kind of got addicted to pain, because why would somebody leave a perfectly good job, perfectly stable environment, perfectly nice, remuneration and things like that and jump into entrepreneurship? Like, the pain wasn't enough for you to deal with, or what was going on there?
There is a joy and a freedom that comes in pursuing the unique thing you're supposed to do in this world. sometimes the constraints of a job or a system are so limiting that you have to create another way. And that's just what it is.
Absolutely. Well, I think maybe you've been able to handle that. Now, how is it that you're working with people now? Obviously, you're no longer having them come to you and tell them to undress in the other room while you examine them. You literally having to talk to them in, in different scenarios. What is it you're helping them with now?
Right now, I am doing executive coaching and facilitation of workshops on this concept that you really can own who you are and own the room. In whatever profession you decide to go into, there is something that you have to add. And I feel like there's so much conformity and wanting to be what we see on the internet. Uh, you see it, right? Everyone is starting to kind of look the same, having the same hairstyles, doing the same things. And the innovation, the creativity, the uniqueness that each of us brings, tapping into that requires us to step up in a different way. It requires us to know who we are. It requires us to not just look to AI for the answer or going to the doctor saying, I need this pill. It requires us to see who we are and be that because the world needs it.
Mm. See, people look up to, just like we were talking about the doctors, right? People look up to certain notes or certain things that have already been done in the past and find a shortcut, which then helps them determine how they are going to be proceeding. But what you're bringing to the table is, hey, we are all unique. Look at your fingers. No two fingers on the same hand are of the same height. Now, does this work on real humans, Michele? Because some of us I just want to wear my shirts, wear my jackets, and show up to the world saying, hey guys, just like the rest of them. Has there been a time where you've actually had a client transformation that surprised you yourself? What is it that made it so impactful?
Now, I have had some amazing client transformations, and I have had the experience of, hey, everyone kind of unfolds in their own way in their own time. One client transformation that was really big for me was a CFO of a Fortune 500 company who really begrudgingly was receiving coaching from me. It was like ordered by the boss kind of thing. Um, but as I talked to this young man, you could feel you could feel the nervousness, the energy, the anxiousness coming off. He was so wired, is the word I would use. And asking powerful questions about what it is he really wanted to be and show up as in the world helped him to actually get off 4 medications for his anxiety and blood pressure. It allowed him to have an incredible relationship with his 2 children. He was a divorced dad in a relationship that he needed to let go. And what's interesting and what people don't realize is that you are a whole person. So when we talk about workplace and what you're going to do to advance there, it's not just the workplace. We got to look at the whole you, how you approach things. And so that sitting in the moment of asking that powerful question, he was able to reshape how he did his work as well. The team was no longer put off by that anxious, nervous character. He was different. And they were able to make over $300,000 for the company as a team because of this new clarity and this new standing in ownership of who he was. So the small changes of asking the right questions of ourselves and actually walking in decision towards it, which is one of the things that coaching does, is powerful. And he's still off of those medications. It's been 5 years.
Wow. And congratulations on such a obviously remarkable achievement, because fish don't see the water that they swim in up until a hook comes in and they're like, oh, what happened to the other guy who who bit into that worm? We haven't seen him in a while. Now,
That's the thing. We don't see it. And sometimes we have to relearn and unlearn and relearn again.
So from what you're saying, you're literally giving people back to themselves, because this man was there before. Only he was showing up into the world heavy with luggage, those 4 medications that they were having. You can imagine what that would do to his personal life, like professional life, wherever he needed to be, work his life around making sure his subscriptions are filled. He was a customer to a whole different system than the one he thought he was actually subscribed to.
And scared to drive and not sleeping and looking like he was on caffeine all the time. I mean, you can feel it. And that's the thing. It's getting back to ourselves so that we can show up the way we were meant to show up in this world. And there's so many programs and pills, fixes for things, get my supplement, get my this. And oftentimes we really need to learn how we uniquely show up, how we uniquely get back to ourselves. It's important.
Absolutely. Where we are now in this journey, while you're helping others heal, you weren't pain-free, right? If I'm not mistaken. You healed.
This is true. I have been pain-free now for 4 years.
Wow.
The name Pain-Free PA was given to me by one of my first few coaches before I was pain-free. And you make a decision and walk towards it. Rewiring the nervous system, changing how I show up. Really, I did not know that my pain was going to go away. I was okay with if I had to live the rest of my life in pain. But that was the thing that happened for me.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
But you'd understand. I mean, after 20 years, Michele, you would have been like, you know what? I'm good. Let me not tempt fate. And then you just go there and chill. But now you've decided, no, I'm going to write books. I'm going to be around a lot of people. And I'm going to show them that you literally can live pain-free. Some of us would have been chilling and be like, you know what? I've done my part. Let me enjoy not being in pain. Why are you coming back? Another pain that you after again.
It doesn't feel like pain. It feels like that calling you mentioned, that you can't stop talking about something that can be helpful. You can't stop being in your expertise For instance, Prosper, you're doing this amazing show. You're highlighting all these experiences for people. Could you imagine not sharing with people? Like, what? It was put on your heart to do. You can't ignore it. And so when I talk with people, when I was sitting in those exam rooms, I was like, your gift, like you say in that fishbowl, you don't know, you can't see the water. I was like, why are these people coming to me with a sore throat? I got 4 boxes of tissue in my room because they gonna cry with me. Like, what is this?
Wow.
And that really allowed me to see that I was able to listen between the lines. And this gift, this ability to coach them through, to listen to what they're saying, to validate it for them and say it back out loud, was absolutely necessary, powerful, and needed to be done on a wider scale.
Now, I think we've arrived at that part where I think I can say this to you, Michele, and correct me if I'm wrong. This pain didn't happen to you, it happened for you.
Absolutely. Prosper. I was 23 years old. I was a dancer who had just performed at the Chicago Theater and tried to scratch my name between Michael Jackson and Prince on the little backstage wall. And I couldn't get out of bed in the morning right. That was the greatest gift because I get it now. Absolutely anything is possible. If I can be pain-free and sit in this place of healing and coaching with others, anything is possible.
Absolutely. Now, I kind of feel like what you take people through in your coaching, and thank you so much for taking that on, because some people would not have done the work and wouldn't understand, that concept that, certain things happening for us, because now not only do you have a good story to tell on the Online Prosperity Show, but now you've got a platform based on the lived experience that you've had. I mean, we were obviously joking earlier on, and I was saying, some people just, get a bit of inspiration, go to some motivation event, walk through the calls, burn a little bit, and then they in a little bit of pain, go to the pharmacy, tap the bottom of their feet, and then they show up the next day and they're like, yay, I'm a coach. But you had to go through in order for you to then be the one that's road mapping and at the podium telling us. Now, before we even get too excited, how can people get a hold of you and maybe be a part of this journey so they can learn either from your workshops or have an understanding of how you are helping others?
I love connection and not making things too complicated. So my LinkedIn is a great place to connect. I always listen and answer it, as well as my email, Michele at thepainfreepa.com. When I work with organizations and really have these workshops, what I love the most is that people get to connect. We get to collaborate with one another and partner with each other. And so I offer this as an invitation and partnering with you. We as humans need each other. It's not just the technology, the steps. Sometimes we need to speak and be with one another. And so I look forward to hearing more about the connection with you, Prosper.
Okay. I really appreciate this, and I'll make sure that all these links are in the show notes below. That way, obviously, people will, yeah, really get to experience what I think I felt today, and just the authenticity that you bring, and showcasing how, your life story and your pain has now become a platform for others so that they too can be to and have a happier existence. Now, Michele, when we started, you introduced us to a young Michele that was singing, winning family contests and things of that nature. Then this little Michele was then obviously ganged up on in a bus, and that then created a whole different world and perception of who you were. And then you obviously went through your life and things of that nature. Now, there's a time you then traveled, and I think you were age 23, and I think you went to Jamaica, and that was an experience outside of your normal role and life. And I know you would have met other people and different experiences and things of that nature. If that 23-year-old Michele would have met you in Jamaica at that particular time, knowing what you know about life, where she's been and where she's going to head off to and things of that nature, what would you tell her?
That 23-year-old jumped off of a 30-foot cliff at Rick's Cafe. And her best friend jumped right after her. I would watch her and cheer her on. I wouldn't tell her anything. Every single hardship, every single misdirection, every single misstep has been invaluable. And I needed every single experience to be who I am today.
Love that. And what I'm getting from that is, no matter what you're going through in life, no matter who you're becoming, pay attention, because one day you would have a good story to tell. Like, this doesn't happen if you were like, oh, I woke up one day and I got my job, and before you know it, I went traveling around the world, and I broke my nail, and before you know it, I wrote a book. I would have been like, it's okay, Michele, you can enjoy that. Like, we're not about that. But thank you so much for, first of all, the
Thank
journey
you.
you've been through, and just you being willing to share this with us today.
Oh, absolutely. I look forward to next time and the stories we will tell.
Great stuff. Well, all this excitement, you've brought us into your world now. I mean, we've seen where you've been and what it is that you're doing. What's next? What can we expect now from you and PF, your journey and your consulting business, PFPA?
I am really leaning into these in-person workshops, this experiential learning, connecting with people in person. So that is what I'm pulled towards. You know, when you talk about prosperity, I love how there's so many different ways to look at a thing. And I'm watching people say, I want to make $1 million and I want to have this multi-level business. And that is so not me. I don't want to make over $700,000 a year. I want to have a health retreat center in Costa Rica and live with the Kiwis and help people at the pace that feels energetically great for me. And so that's prosperity to me.
Oh, fantastic. And if ever you're going to be on the lookout for those that can feed you grapes and fan you with feathers from those kiwis, I'm definitely putting my hand up, just in case an offer like that will ever be present. I can't thank you enough for the time that we spent on the call today.
Thank you so much, Prosper. It was so good to connect with you and with your audience. Thank you so
Absolutely.
much.
For those that are watching right now, if Michele's story resonated with you, which I think it is, because it is a testament to the power of resilience and the impact of turning whatever personal trials and tribulations you might be going through into tools that actually empower others. And I feel like her journey underscores the importance of self-awareness, adaptability, and the courage to embrace change. Now, if these insights resonated with you, don't keep them to yourself. You might know somebody who's going through some sort of pain of their own, whether it's physical or emotional. Just slide this video into their DMs. They will thank you later. And because you know exactly what you have gone through by just watching this and being in the presence of this much greatness. Now, I can't thank you enough for the time that you've also spent watching this. Be sure to check out the links that I'll put in the show notes below so you can connect with Michele and just get started on your own journey to this. And while you're here, stay tuned to our next episode where we're going to be exploring innovative ideas to enhance your happiness and overall well-being. You don't want to miss that. Thank you so much for joining us today. Until next time, stay prosperous and keep thriving for excellence. Bye for now.
And that is so not me. I don't want to make over $700,000 a year. I want to